And then I think like every great due diligence process, you should always ask if, in our sense, if the company uses Giphies, because I think Giphies is a real cultural thing. And if you use Giphies, awesome. We use Giphies, I think we're going to be friends.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm super excited today because I have the Tobyn Sowden joining me today. Tobyn, before we start, let me get an introduction in so our listener knows more. Tobyn Sowden is the CEO of Redbrick, the parent organization to a growing portfolio of companies. Redbrick has been ranked the 5th fastest growing company in Canada and 2nd in software by Profit 500. Tobyn is responsible for defining Redbrick's overall business strategy, including new product development and future business growth. His extensive professional and personal experiences have given him valuable expertise in building, launching, and growing award-winning companies and delivering excellent operational management and technology products. Tobyn, thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Oh, this is fantastic. So we met, I had you on, oh my gosh, what's it called? Clubhouse with, some of the guys and ladies from, from the community. And I actually hadn't met you before this. And I was blown away by just your openness, answers, responses, business philosophies and attitudes. And I'm just excited to jump in from that with one question. Have you been on Clubhouse since that day?
It's a great topic that we could probably spend most of this session talking about. And I often wonder these days if Clubhouse was a flash in the pan and this like pandemic yearning for connection and networking, meeting new people through a medium which was novel, an audio only. I feel like I'm with you, but I'm not. And I will admit to you today that I have deleted it off my phone.
Yeah. No, I know that they could have sold out quickly. I thought when I heard that there was a possible exit, I'm like, do it now, do it quick and be happy. But who knows? Maybe it'll pivot into something great. I mean, they did a big raise, but we're not really here to talk about Clubhouse, are we? We're talking about more important things like Redbrick. Why don't you tell me about the creation story of Redbrick, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Redbrick goes back. The business has been around now for 10 years. This year was our 10-year anniversary. It's probably worth going back a little bit farther. So I started actually in marketing while I was finishing my degree in computer science. So built a little agency, a little marketing agency out of my dorm room in 2007. And just was kind of interested in the space and wanted to generate a little bit of cash to pay for beer, as well as some student debt. It was a wild ride at about 21 or 22 years old, starting to work with some local companies within Victoria and helping them grow their businesses online. So much so that I got to the end of my degree in 2008, and I ended up selling the business, which wasn't really an acquisition for the other company, more of an acqui-hire. And so I joined a company here in Victoria called Neverblue, which was a performance agency working for a lot of other advertisers and customers around the world. And it was just a fantastic experience to, one, go through an M&A process, like really lucky at 22, 23 years old to go through that and learn, why it's hard, how true that, most good deals die 3 times before they actually come to fruition and see the light of day and close. And then also being on the inside and joining the executive team at Neverblue and leading their marketing was like a mini MBA. You get the experience of being on that team. We looked at M&A deals on the buy side. Early experience with management, recruiting new employees, and just a whirlwind. And I actually only stayed about 18 months with Neverblue as I completed my earnout, and so I was back and ready to go again. And so at that point, Redbrick was founded on a similar marketing premise, but a slant a niche in software. So really helping
Mhm.
software companies acquire users and customers for their apps. And so that was the beginnings of Redbrick 10 years ago.
That's interesting. So you're saying that that first the acquihire. Because I mean, what really interests me about Redbrick is, I mean, it started out as a marketing services firm, and now it's, you know, it's that plus, you know, acquiring operating businesses, arguably. And so was that MBA, you know, experience that you had and learning the M&A side, is that what kind of led you towards that vein of business?
Well, no, I mean, I guess we can give my experience at Neverblue a little bit of credit for the MBA process. So for the last
Mhm,
6 months of my time there, I was on the M&A team, and so I got used
mhm,
to working with investment bankers and advisors, and going through, you know, the legal process of due diligence and closing. So there was some experience that I,
mhm,
I gained from that, but we really didn't, you know, I didn't really apply that in the early days of Redbrick. You know, I think if you looked at where we started to where we are now, and being you know, a fully private and bootstrap company, you have full optionality as far as where you want to go and what you want to do, which you know, sometimes is a bad thing, but in this case, it ended up being a good thing. And I think what
mhm,
that was, that transition, what kind of sparked it, was this realization that we, you know, we were applying our expertise to other people's business and having really meaningful impact on their companies, you know, both from a, you know, a growth perspective, but also in, you know, the really enterprise value creation that we didn't really get the chance to charge for. We could really just going to be a marketing services company, not a partner or a shareholder. And so it led us
mhm,
down this path of wondering, well, you know, what if we did this for ourselves? What if we
mhm,
started looking at building our own software, and applying our marketing expertise at growing the user bases within those software titles. And so slowly but surely we started that transition, started to build some apps, and make our way toward becoming a software company, and not a marketing services company. And
mhm,
that
mhm.
process was multi-year. I mean, it was probably 3 or 4 years by the time
Sure.
we had completed that transition. And once we arrived there, Redbrick took on a new kind of shape and architecture. It became a holding company, or a parent company to these digital operating businesses. Has an executive team today that lead a set of shared services in creative, finance, and HR, that
Mhm.
all provide support to our portfolio companies that each have their own CEO, leadership team, and then dedicated team members that work just on those, on that company. So
Mm.
yeah, so that was, you know, a very long period of time, and a big transition away from originally providing marketing services. You know, we arrived at this new form, and we got this fantastic opportunity to acquire our first major company, which was Lead
Mhm,
Pages last year, that we acquired, a company based in Minneapolis,
mhm, mhm,
about 18 million US dollars in ARR, very profitable, 40 team members. And the product is fantastic. It's really a Martech, marketing technology product that's for building
mhm.
landing pages and websites. So kind of like a Wix, but
Mhm.
really focused on marketing and marketers.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you know what? We start up at one portfolio. Why don't you tell me? Can you tell me some more about? I mean, you have multiple portfolio companies, and I love the way you're talking about how you kind of add value across the chain to empower them to just focus on the business as opposed to the stuff that you need to focus on, the HR and all the, you know, the support side of things. But can you tell me about the portfolio companies that are within Redbrick?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other one that's worth pointing out, because many people have either come across it, tried it, or are customers today, which is Shift.
Mhm,
The Shift product was originally incubated at Redbrick, and the idea behind Shift, which is a browser for work, is that we are moving between multiple companies and multiple Google Workspace accounts, or Microsoft Office 365 accounts, and using different browsers or profile switching or the account management tool within Google can just generally be cumbersome, especially when you want to context switch back and forth quickly throughout your day. And so, kind of on that basis, we came up with this idea for Shift, which was a new type of browser that would let you move between those accounts much more seamlessly. And so Shift, we offer it on a subscription basis. It's about $100 US a year, and we have over 30,000 customers, as well as 20,000 free weekly active users that are also using Shift.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And then you said basically the companies, I mean, would you call them incubating inside your organization? I mean, it sounds like you're they're part of the umbrella, but they have their own CEOs, they have, their own direction, I suppose. I mean, how much influence do you have over these companies as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, so they to answer your first question, which is around incubation, originally, we were incubating them within Redbrick as we were going through our transition away from marketing services. So we're kind of using marketing services, as a profit engine to fund product development, and that worked well for us. And until we really realized that the structure of Redbrick and the way our, for example, technology team was supporting, kind of multiple initiatives, the marketing services, different companies and products, we really realized we needed to restructure and really get a lot of focus. And that meant moving technology teams within the companies and not having as much shared service as we did before. And that also meant that we weren't incubating within Redbrick. So we now have, with the success of Lead Pages, really put our energy and efforts into corporate development, looking for new acquisitions to bring into the Redbrick family of companies, and those are really fun conversations. Well, whether they go well or not, because I mean, just as as a fellow entrepreneur, it's just so fascinating to learn about other companies, other products, the way they do things. You'll find like, well, that's like probably not a good way to do things, but you also find other other areas where wow, that's a great idea. I can learn from that. And so it's always fun to have the conversations. But the way a lot of those conversations go is Redbrick comes off as quite attractive, given the way we think, and also the support we provide. A lot of entrepreneurs just really, they don't really love handling finance and legal and the pieces of the company that aren't thought of as classically sexy. So we've really put our attention into to acquisitions. And I've had hundreds of conversations this year, and we've had plenty of proposals. So we are hoping to close a new transaction soon, but more to come on that.
Well, fingers crossed. That sounds interesting. So you went, the original idea then was you're looking at the kind of the incubation, like, the organic side of the company, maybe being part of the earliest side of the journey, and now the M&A side. Do you still look at the incubation side, or is it just so much more attractive to just do the M&A where it's a little bit more of a mature product at that point, or mature company?
I think we always like to flirt a little bit with the idea of starting something new, and I haven't ruled that out as a way for us to found another company in the future. However, the journey from starting to product market fit and then to scale is a very long journey. And I think, we've been at this long enough now that we Redbrick's building this like corporate memory, which is that, like, don't forget that took a long time. And so unless you're ready to go on a 5-year journey to profit, maybe you should look for a product or a business with product market fit, and that could really use your expertise in taking it to the next level and adding scale on top of a foundation we can acquire. So that's more of our thesis today. And
Mhm.
as we look at future companies and products, we really think about supporting the digital entrepreneur. Like, what software can we build or buy that supports the digital entrepreneur? And that's really close to home. I think there are so many people within Redbrick, if they're not actual entrepreneurs, they're incredibly entrepreneurial. They think like entrepreneurs, and so within the ethos of the DNA of Redbrick, it really resonates. And so it feels so close to home. And when we went through that lead pages process, I think that part was just so easy for us, that the lead pages culture and product, it supports the digital entrepreneur. It's kind of the way we've been thinking and what we've been doing for so long.
Well, and let me ask a little bit about the lead pages. I mean, Minnesota based, and you have a culture of, we'll call it entrepreneurs. It sounds like. I mean, they're under umbrella, but entrepreneurs, even though it's their own companies within that umbrella. What was the transformation like when you take in a Minnesota based company? That sounds fantastic. In terms of the culture, did it change anything within your culture, or did you change their culture, or how did you handle that question?
Well, when you go to Minnesota, you absolutely have to change your wardrobe, and that's something that we found out. I found out real quick. I mean, if you can imagine this West Coast, Victorian who like brings their ski gloves just in case, and you're headed out for dinner, putting the ski gloves on. So yeah, so it is a different place. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of they are very close to Canada. I think they line up with Manitoba-ish,
Yeah.
and northern. So really great people. And one of our very early decisions was to just get down there. And so we flew in December 2019, just ahead of the pandemic, and enjoyed a week on the ground, and having dinners and doing meetings, and I think what we came away with was not just the sense of opportunity, like there was kind of much to be done, and there was growth potential, but also just really impressed with the people, which up until that point we had been assessing the product and assessing the financial performance, and kind of building models around what we think could be, but really didn't have a read on the people. And we were really pleased with the leadership team that we had met at that time, and felt again like even more comfortable with the process, and kind of making that leap. And then I think, like every great due diligence process, you should always ask if in our sense if the company uses Giphies, because I think Giphies is a real cultural thing. And if you use
That's
Giphies,
awesome.
we use Giphies, I
We
think
use
we're going to
Giphies.
be
I
friends.
That I love. That I love. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, tell me. I mean, I'm interested in this, the M&A side and the setting up and everything. I mean, I always say, because I mean, I have a lot of, and this is maybe because they're a little more on the just trying to find product fit stage, but I meet people and I invest in people quite often, just as much as the project or the product or the company. How much do you have like a formula that has a weight? Like, okay, this is a person that maybe the product fits a little bit off, but I know that person's going to be successful no matter what. That you might add that a little bit more weight, or is it just kind of like, well, how mature is the company? How can we scale it using our services and help? Is there a formula for that?
So a formula for like prospective
Well,
acquisitions, or you were saying
yeah.
people?
How much does the leadership matter? Is really what I'm asking. Like, if it's such a good product, but maybe you're clashing a little bit, or there's a culture clash, would you still do it, or is that person really matter that much?
I think that it you really need, on average, the people to work and be great. I think you can't have, on average, like a cultural or a people based clash. I don't think that works. The people are really important, and maybe it's the like people product profits as far as fit goes. But I think that you'll encounter, and we have encountered people that don't fit. But I think it's important that is a little bit different than the average, not fitting. I think it's okay if one or two people aren't fitting with the culture, or, the thing that I really look for is, flexibility and curiosity. If you say, what about this? What do you ever thought about that? And if it's immediately shut down without any kind of research or, discovery, then that's a pretty negative signal that they're maybe not as opportunistic as we are, or how we really would want them to behave post closing. Yeah.
Sure. No, I dig. I mean, you know what? And plus, the way you guys are set up, your team is set up, or the infrastructure set up, it's already a friendly acquisition anyhow. From how I'm feeling it, like this is going to be, hey, we're going to empower you, not we're going to take the asset of what you're doing and make it better. It sounds like we recognize how we can just bring that multiplier effect to you, and I think people will probably be a lot more open to that anyhow. Through an acquisition, I assume.
Well, absolutely. And when you start talking to the leadership team and the greater team, and Lead Pages is a great example of where we were bringing our a group of shared services people that were like standing ready and there to help. And that's, to hear that and get that message that you will have more support and you will be supported by us. And in fact, we're going to grow our services team, based on welcoming you guys into the portfolio. And I think that is one component of it. And then on the other side is that, we immediately put a hiring plan in place. Within the year, within 2020, we had onboarded 6 new people onto the team, which was significant growth for them, and we were excited about shoring up different areas that need a bit more help and dedicated help within the business, not just the shared service layer at Redbrick. I think that's really important. And I think it is an advantage that we bring. And in the feedback, we asked for feedback afterward from Lead Pages on how they thought the acquisition went, and overwhelmingly positive, with a lot of people expressing early negativity of, I actually thought this was going to go horrible, but it turned out really great.
Wow. And you know what, lesson here, I think a lot of it, because you said you got your, boots, literal boots on the ground right away to try to get a feel. And, instead of just sending an emissary, you went yourself, you said, right?
Yeah. And so that was December 2019. We actually closed on February 29th, leap year of all things, just ahead of 2 weeks later, it was a pandemic. All over the world. So we closed that final week in February in 2020, and that closing agenda for those 5 business days in that week was very, very well built out by our team here at Redbrick, and we really wanted to manage kind of every hour of kind of every person's day throughout that period to make sure that we were there for them when they had questions about how benefits were going to work, within Redbrick, to ask, what we thought about product roadmap for the next 12 months. And so I met with every team and took time to meet with every person on the leadership team. We as a leadership team or executive team at Redbrick gave a kind of an introduction to Redbrick, and had this kind of beautifully curated set of slides to walk everybody through and kind of try and paint a picture of what it was going to be like. And you know what? At the end of the day, we went and had beers and did some bowling, and we won them over.
Perfect. That's perfect. Now, one question: when they asked you about the benefits and all that, did they ask if they were going to be able to get the Canadian medical system too?
Well, we didn't get that question directly, but I think they're being a Canadian company. I think we take a lot of things for granted, and I think I've learned a lot about the U.S. system, and definitely the gaps compared to ours. And so we've done some things that we didn't have to, but we felt it was right with lead pages being in the U.S. For instance, our maternity leave program is fairly compelling here at Redbrick. It's for 12 months. And I believe we match up to 75% of your salary after the government's contributed. And I think, in the US, I think it was 12 weeks. And I'm not sure if it was like 50% even of salary. And so we said, that's just not right. We're going to bring the Canadian policy to lead pages in the US, and we know we're not going to get the benefit of the government program. We're going to have to essentially top up from near zero. And it was the right thing to do. And we actually had pregnant team members that were on the lead pages team, and God, were they thankful. It was really amazing. And of course, we've had quite a few pregnancies since then, which is fantastic. Fantastic. But it's great. I think it's about doing the right thing in those scenarios.
Completely. I honestly love hearing about that. It's so important. It's so important. Well, now after having that deal, because that's your first American acquisition.
Yes.
Does it give you more confidence to do more in the States at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's the product, the people, and the profits, all those kind of key things about whether or not we go ahead with a deal. And then we also joke like, well, where do we want to go? Where do we want to travel to? Southern California sounds nice. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great opportunities that we've been looking at in the United States. We've built up some of the expertise required now within Redbrick HQ. We know when shared services can handle something, and we know when we either need to bring in an on the ground individual dedicated or bring on a vendor, which we now have a few vendor relationships that help us in certain situations. So yeah, we feel pretty tooled up and probably definitely better established to predict some of the things that maybe we didn't see coming on the lead pages deal.
On the way to global domination. I love hearing this. I love hearing this. But domination might not be the right word, but you know where I'm going. Yeah. You know where I'm going. Well, you know what? You wrote an article that I loved, honestly, because I believe in it 100%. It was an opinion piece called "The Case for the Camel. Not every startup needs to be a unicorn." I assume you remember this?
Yeah. I mean, the camel, it's not an amazing term, but I didn't invent it, so we'll go with it.
But why camels over unicorns? And again, love this piece.
Camels over unicorns. So the idea of a unicorn, right, is a company that has raised venture funding at a valuation of greater than $1 billion, and it's just one of those sexy things. Everybody wants to be a unicorn. It's the latest and greatest piece of journalism that comes out. The BC's number 14 unicorn, and
popping up like crazy.
Yeah, it's great. It is good, but I think there are stories that are being a little bit skimmed over just because they're not going the venture route, and I'm a fan of venture. I'm a limited partner with a couple of Inovia's funds, Northleaf Capital Partners. Definitely I believe in venture capital, but I also am through and through a bootstrapper, and that's really what a camel company is a company that has the grit and determination to really get to a cash flow positive state, and stay there and do it without having to raise venture and raise any sort of capital other than kind of the initial investment by yourself or kind of friends and family. So that's the idea of a camel. Obviously, I mean, yeah, you could say Redbrick is a type of camel, a really sleek one, but
a dromedary.
but yeah, you know, like, hey, look at MailChimp. MailChimp, the 20-year overnight success story of MailChimp that surpassed the last quoted number was like over $700 million in recurring revenue, you know, per year without raising any venture funding, and then sells to Intuit. Was it Intuit?
Yeah, I think it was Intuit, and then they changed their name overnight too.
Really?
Yeah, they changed the name from MailChimp. I at least got an email about it. I'm like, MailChimp just changed its name. I mean, I actually got that before I got the acquisition information.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those ones that's ingrained in us, right? So
yeah, for
interesting
sure.
that they would change it. But
Yeah.
but you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I read, you know, had a dream that MailChimp should change its name, but I'm pretty sure it did. I just can't remember the name of it right now.
Well, one thing that's for sure is their valuation, which was $12 billion. So yeah, even though you're not raising and, you know, publicly announcing a valuation every, you know, 6 to 12 months, you know, doesn't mean the you know, the company still isn't deserving of some credit and success in, you know, in a different frame, but a very I think valued frame.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've said this a couple times on the show, but I mean, the one thing that drives me a little bit nutty when I'm in the valley, because I'm down there a lot when I can, is, you know, the first question you get is, you know, so how much investment have you got in you? And like, that's the badge of honor, right? It's like, dude, I'm a business. Like, you know, the fact that I don't need to take, you know, someone to tell me how to steer my ship, I think that's the badge of honor. So that's why when I read the camel thing, I'm like, oh, you're singing what I totally agree. And I mean, you know, at the time when you need to scale the product, that's when you need a venture. You need it to do that. You need, you know, not just the capital, but also those who might be able to help you do so, you know, in the right way, who's got some experience with it and all that. But at the end of the day, you could be very successful as a business, you know, too. So anyhow, I really like that article. Another thing that I learned about you, and you can confirm this or not, was because I read that you that when you get into the office, you usually reserve a couple of hours with no meetings so that you can focus on emails and other to-dos before connecting with your team. Is that still a routine with you, and how important is that routine?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of ebbs and flows as routines do, but yeah, no, I think for many people in business, you would probably break up your day into 3 different types of tasks, and that is communicating. So whether that's, you know, whatever medium it is, from writing an email, or you know, taking a phone call, or Slack and Teams today, you know, to meetings, and meetings are kind of another form, because they're in the moment, and you have to have your undivided attention, and, you know, whether those are one-on-ones, or, you know, update meetings, you know, or there's a working group for something, and, you know, the final one being being an individual contributor. So when you have to, you know, you have to do work outside of those 2 things. And so, yeah, for me, when it comes to my time in the really early morning, I like to focus on my individual contributor time. And what that looks like for me is I like to sometimes get into the product design and spend some time with the designers and the product groups across the companies. And so whenever I do that type of thinking, it's usually you know, whether that's in InVision or in Figma or Asana, I'm working in those tools and giving feedback on things. Or it's the new Google Sheet on, you know, some idea that I've got around, you know, changing some mechanism, or, you know, investing in some place. It's you know, it's building out and doing work on something. So I do that in the early morning. And then I think from there, I usually spend time on communication. So getting back to people I need to respond to, sending Slack messages, kind of getting the day going for myself and for other people. And then kind of late morning, I'll probably have some space for impromptu meetings. where you kind of need to be switched on and perhaps dealing with an issue. And then in the afternoon, I like to do my one-on-ones and update meetings to make sure I'm caught up with people and with things. And so that's still how I structure. And also I really start early. I probably spend 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. working on that individual contribution time. And
you can call me. You can call me.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing.
Nice.
I'm a hockey dad. I love 4 a.m. Like,
oh yeah,
it's I was here at 4:45 yesterday, so I totally dig that.
Yeah. So I have like a number of split shifts. So I go from that session into like, okay, let's get the dishes done. Breakfast is made, kid or two to school or daycare, and then shift back into that communication phase. So, and then because I get going so early, I usually knock off pretty early as well. And that's to go again to do pickups, to start. I'm the dinner chef in the house, so to get the dinner plan going and things rolling. And trying to break up fist fights, with 3 young boys at home. They are gnarly.
Well, I've got the teenage daughter and I'm dealing with that side of life. I'll take the gnarly fist fights right now. I'll tell you, instead of the mental torture. But you know what? I mean, I love hearing what you say. I mean, it sounds like you got it. You've got the priorities, which I think is super important, because that's when we founded our company. We always wanted to make sure it's family first. And so the same thing, if you need to knock it off early because you want to be the cook, or if you want to do that, that is the priority. And I think it's so important to lay the floor right away and make sure that people understand that, what we do as a company is important, but what we do as a company and as a family person or that is just as important. So I really I love hearing about that.
Maybe there's a correlation with camels. Maybe this is an advantage that only camel founders get.
We're not gonna run outside and sprint real fast. We want to get it done properly and make sure that the relationships are never are always treasured on the way. So I dig that. I think that's awesome. Yeah. Well, you know what, this is kind of interesting, because I read as well that you were born in Salt Spring and then grew up in Chemainus. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, because my parents live in Salt Spring. I love it there. I mean, there as often as I can. And my mom grew up in Chemainus, so a good portion. So I'm like, wow, okay, we've kind of got a little bit of simpatico there. But I also love Victoria. I mean, it's hard not to love Victoria. But what are the advantages and disadvantages of having an HQ in Victoria?
Yeah, I make this Chemainus joke all the time, which only people that know Chemainus get it. But really small town, 2,500 people or so, and I always say it's an amazing place to grow up, but the best place to leave. And so my departure from Chemainus, which I get my mom and her husband are still there, and so I get the benefit of traveling back and. Still a really nice place to visit, but I left. My departure was to attend university at the University of Victoria, which is a really great experience. Fond memories, and I did a lot of work through the co-op program, and I think maybe we talked about that a little bit on the clubhouse. But I think that the University of Victoria mandates for engineering degrees that all engineers complete 4-month work terms through the co-op program, and I think it's a really important thing. The computer science program also has co-op as an option, which is what I went through. And I would say that is one of the gems about having a Victoria HQ, is that our relationship with the University of Victoria's co-op programs is phenomenal. So we are recruiting 10 to 12 students per semester right now from that program that come and work either within the shared services layer within Redbrick or within one of our companies, and they get experience immediately when it comes to computer science and software engineering. We are usually seeing the first commit and merge within the first week, by the end of the first week.
Wow.
So it's like a reality of this is what it's like, and I think that's important, because a lot of the times most of the time, people are like, oh, wow, this is what I thought it was going to be. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm excited for my future. Sometimes, like myself, when I did a co-op in Pickering, Ontario, at the nuclear power plant, I realized that mechanical engineering, this isn't for me. And that's when I made the switch into computer science at that point. So it's a great thing for us as an organization. I think for the student, I think also for the community to give back. And I think we see around 40% of our co-op students actually return.
That was going to be my question. Those numbers are huge. Those numbers are huge.
So I think, and
that's awesome.
I think when some people look at our turnover rates, and just our retention, I think they're impressive, because it's almost like we give so many of our team members a trial. It's like, how about a 7-day trial and shift? How about a 4-month trial through a co-op? And they decide of whether, like, is this great? And I want to come back after I graduate, or will I pursue something else? So a lot of the times, people that are coming inbound and joining the team already know Redbrick. They've already done a co-op term here, and they're excited to continue their Redbrick experience. So I'd say that's one of our big secrets, and definitely one of the great things about having an HQ in Victoria. And then it's just an awesome place to live. We can still get up skiing if we want to. Obviously, lots of hiking, kayaking. We've got the lakes nearby. Still have an international airport, and I think we can get away, with the camel and the work-life balance.
Oh, I love that. And I really love the fact that you focused on co-ops, because people don't really understand how important that is. I mean, my favorite thing, because we do about between 7 and 10 co-ops as well. Mostly right now, we between UBC and Waterloo for us. But what I love is they all want to come into the office instead of, even at this time, and they flavor the culture. Every new batch of co-ops you get flavors the culture, because the excitement and energy that comes with it. And so it's something that I love. And you create long relationships with these people, whether they continue with you. I mean, 40% is huge numbers. I wish we could get that. But at the end of the day, you feel like you've really been a big part of their lives, and they've improved on what you do as well. So I think that's an amazing answer. Well, we'll tell you what. I mean, again, the theme here, we're talking about the youth here. So the theme here of AfternoonT is to to speak to wonderful, experienced entrepreneurs like yourself, and to share that journey with the next generation of youth, of startups. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to a younger Canadian founder?
I think the one of the things that I would say from reflecting on the last 15 years is there's and I don't want to bring the camel into this again, but I think that part of Redbrick's success today has been about bobbing and weaving, and being flexible and adaptable to a very a universe that is in constant change. And so I think my advice to new founders, new Canadian founders, would be to be very flexible, and really consider all options, because even in a situation of demise, when you think it's over, it's probably not, and there's probably a phoenix story out of the ashes that you can spin a narrative around, and would be a really great application of the talent that you've been able to recruit, and the existing brand equity that you've created, and I think getting really good at change management, which is kind of what that is handling the bobs and weaves, and being flexible, but then also regurgitating that in a way that is very very palatable, and that your team can understand and get on board with. I think that's a really big skill not to take lightly, and to just always be flexible in hard times.
Be the camel, my friend. Be
the camel. Just survive.
I love this. I honestly love this. Well, we'll tell you what. I mean, last question here of the day, and then we can let you get on to your busy day. Can you share the name of a Canadian entrepreneurial star or founder that you look up to?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that everybody says Toby Luca.
It's an easy one.
Yeah, and Toby is in my name. But Toby Luca is inspiring, but as is Scott Lake, who's also one of the other co-founders and part of the origin story of Shopify. And Scott Lake, of course, is here. He resides in Victoria and nice. And does a lot of positive things within the community and the greater community within Vancouver Island. So absolute inspirations. And zeroing in on Shopify and what they're doing, this whole arm the rebels mandate, I think was just genius. Like it combined this like product insight with market opportunity that landed so well for me. And I'm sure as with many others. And then, I mean, how can you not love a company that has a StarCraft 2 league and like sponsorship, like player sponsorship program? Like, I mean, every gamer and computer science nerd from the 2000s is just relishing over what they're doing over at Shopify. So and also just love Toby's approach to I think his voice and how how active he is within in the Twitter community, and the way he really comes off as not superhuman. He's a real person, and
he's the nerd's nerd in Twitter.
Love it.
Like I don't know if you saw a couple days ago, he was making a keyboard. Things like that.
I missed that, but
he was
cool.
sharing the making of a keyboard, and it's like that guy is not that guy's a human, like exactly what you said. And I'd love to play StarCraft with him, 1 or 2. I'd be happy with either.
Yeah, guarantee he would beat me.
Guaranteed. I know I would be looking for the keys before he zorged me or zerged me to death. But hey, Toby, honestly, from a guy who believes in camels, this was so much fun. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us and sharing. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much, Chris. This has been great.